Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast. My name is Chris Pekarski, and on today's episode, we have in from the recently dismissed Near North District School Board Trustees, Louise Sargent talk a bit about all the things that's happening with the New York District School Board at the trustee perspective, which is fascinating, I'll just say the least. This is a great conversation. We've been looking at covering this story in particular for a little while now, but there's been so many different parts of it that, like, where do you even hop in, right? And so thankfully, we had an in. Louise came on, and she was fantastic. She was detailed. She had tremendous experience. She was, I say was because they've been dismissed as of December 1st, I think. At the time, the longest consecutive serving trustee for that board. So she's lots of experience to share, lots of context, lots of different topics to talk a bit about. There was so much. We could have made this episode 2 hours easy. We didn't because Ben has to go somewhere else. But we covered Parry Sound High School and the Mega School. We talked a bit about, trustees and where they're going now. We talked a bit about that ministry report. We had some call outs to the Ministry of Education, the Minister in particular, Paul Calandra. We talk about all different kinds of stuff. It's really interesting if you're invested in just North Bay education and elected trustees, the Parry Sound stuff, what's happening down in Queen's Park in Toronto in relation to education across the province. Strap in. This episode is for you. Before we get to all that, though, we do want to throw it and thank our title sponsor of today's show, Source for Sports.
It's almost that time of year. Early mornings at the rink, fresh notebooks and backpacks, and a community gearing up for another great season of varsity sports. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of it all. Whether it's finding your kid's first pair of skates, gearing up for tryouts, or outfitting your team for the season ahead, we've got you covered. Because here, we're not just a sports store, we're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to cheer you on every shift, step, and stride of the way. Visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street and let us help you along your way.
Today's episode, we have in Louise Sargent, who we're going to get into her background in a minute, but you come from the Near North District School Board as a trustee. So, Louise, welcome in.
Thank you very much. As a former trustee.
So I was kind of not quite sure how to phrase that because obviously for those who've been following any kind of Canadian education or Ontario news lately, especially Ontario news, the Near North District School Board has been, in the media and in the light and the focus for a little while. And then obviously recently, I think about a week or so ago, the ministry came in and dismissed the trustees. So you are technically a former trustee. Is that the title?
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's if it's not clear, that's totally fair. But I was also getting some homework, off camera here. Up until, I guess, present, you were the longest serving trustee on the board at the time of last week, correct?
Yes, consecutive.
Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Service well served, obviously, serving the community. But yeah, there's been lots happening. We've been looking at covering the story in some capacity for a little while now, and it's been kind of hard, because there's a lot of moving parts and people and personalities and topics, and it's just been a lot. So thank you for coming in and making time for us.
You're welcome.
So let's talk a bit about what's going on. So we talked a bit about it last week, or a couple weeks ago, actually, with Dr. Tabachnik from Nipissing University about how the trustee system, I believe in Canada, if not Ontario, you're welcome to correct me, is one of Canada's longest serving democratic systems. I think it dates back to, 1816 through the education public trustee system, which is pretty cool. What isn't really cool, and I will insert my own opinion in this, is how it feels like things are changing. And that's in reference to, obviously, the Ministry of Education, having obviously a very critical review and report of Near North, along with a couple other school boards across Ontario, and then obviously recently taking the power away from the trustees. Do you have any kind of generalized comments on that in terms of going through that and seeing it and how things have changed in the last, 15 years?
I do believe that we have been around since the 1800s. I saw that fact in something else that I was reading. I think that depending on circumstances within communities, that people have at times spoken highly of their Board of Trustees, and at other times there's been concerns about decision-making that the Board of Trustees have made. And so it just depends on the time and what types of situations that we find ourselves in.
Right. And, we've always, I say we've always, like we've been talking about this for months or something, but whenever we do bring up the topic, when it comes to any kind of, civil service or elected position, I always give credit where credit's due that, you're kind of doing service for the community, for the public by putting yourself forward. And, New Earth, the board at large, the trustees also in particular have been under quite a bit of criticism regarding some stuff in the last little while. One of the bigger ones that I guess came through the ministry's eye, I guess, and I'm going to cue this up, that I'd imagine would be hard because it's so complicated, but it in fact impacts a good chunk of people in Parry Sound was the school, right? The mega school, which for a while had some construction, I guess, delays. And obviously the people in the Parry Sound community and the surrounding area, Nobel, they have a lot of opinions. As a trustee who's based out of North Bay, if I can say that, that's correct. How do you and your fellow trustees, your former trustees, listen, respond to criticism, and do your job to kind of help in what capacities you can regarding matters like the construction of the mega school?
Well, I think one of the first things is that it's very important to hear the public opinion and to understand where the concerns are coming from. And if any of those concerns can be brought forward at the board table to ask the questions that maybe they're not getting answers to. It is an operational matter, and so the Board of Trustees has the Director of Education, who we directly hire, and his or her role is to look after the operational aspects of the school. And so they are in charge of that. And with that responsibility comes the accountability to come back to the Board of Trustees and just let us know what's going on.
Right.
Even before I started in September of 2015, this has been an ongoing issue in the Parry Sound area for the new build. And so I think that there's been a combination of a lot of things over the years. This has been a long-awaited process, and when it started to actually happen, we had there are construction delays, as many projects have them. I think there's the geographical concerns, all of that type of thing. But I think bottom line is that the Board of Trustees is accountable to the public, and they're accountable to the Ministry of Education. And it doesn't have to be you're not blaming anybody, but as a trustee, we are held accountable, and that's one of the areas where the minister has seen that there was it could have been done a lot better, and it doesn't matter where the blame lies. The fact is that right now the building is not complete like it should have been. And there are students who are not getting the best education or having the modernization that they thought they would have by September.
Right.
And so as a board, trustees were accountable for that. And that's what it all boils down to. And part of that accountability is also communication. And I think that at times we could have done a better job of communicating. I think that there was some communication that needed to be done between the operational side and the Board of Trustees side, as well as much as we possibly could to be able to communicate that better to the public as well.
Oh, I should have asked you this question earlier, Louise, because I think I already know the answer. But for our listeners and viewers who maybe don't know, you come from a teaching background, right? Correct? You used to be a teacher?
Yes, I had just recently retired in 2014.
Yeah.
and it was the election in that fall.
Okay.
And I had been already teaching for 33 years, mostly at a grade 7 and 8 level at Silver Birches, which then was an intermediate school.
Yeah.
And during that course of time, I had worked mostly with special education in that realm, and also had some leadership roles within the school, teacher in charge, and at, a small, short stint of being an acting vice principal, that sort of thing.
Right.
And so I've seen some layers, different layers,
Yep.
and had opportunities to be in leadership roles. And when it came time I actually stayed 2 extra years than I could have. I did, and I.
When you were teaching, you mean?
When I was teaching,
Yes.
yeah, I could have gone earlier, but I elected to stay. It was also our school was then moving to West Ferris, so it was becoming a 7 to 12.
Right.
And so knowing that was coming up, I decided I would stay because I had thought about being a trustee. I'm not a political person. I don't like politics so much as just being able to see what the problem is, be able to talk it out, and be able to move forward. And sometimes politics gets in the way.
Sometimes. That's putting it lightly.
But for the most part, I felt that I thoroughly enjoyed my teaching career. I had challenging students, but they brought out the best in me, and I hope I was able to give them the best of the education that they could have. And also, I felt that the board had given me so many opportunities of learning, and had given me lots of resources and professional development. That at the time there was some people that felt that the trustees didn't have a voice that was as current or had been in the trenches, so to speak. And I thought, you know what, I think I would like to do that. I'll just, I might be that squeaky wheel, but I'd like the opportunity to go up and be able to give maybe a more down to earth type of perspective, or what's really happening. Is that really coming down into that level, into the teaching at the ground level of the school? And so that intrigued me on running, and then I ran, and circumstances, I missed out by 100 and some odd votes to the next person. And then unfortunately there was a tragic occasion where one of the trustees had passed away, and so the next person in line was the one to take the seat, and that was me, because it happened in our zone, our area. And so that following September, I found myself on the board.
There you go.
So this is my third term as being a trustee. I'm not the longest serving trustee. Al Bottomley, from what I believe, was 21 or 22 years serving as a trustee, and he was in the Almaguin area.
Okay.
But I had the pleasure of working alongside him and learning lots from the boards that I've been on, and especially where the seasoned trustees were, and watching how they worked and how they made decisions and that type of thing, and how they put the kids first. Like, that was foremost in their mind.
Yeah, it's a good perspective. I think we needed to kind of, it's on me. I should have set the table a little bit earlier to kind of give, our conversation and our audience a little bit of context as to where you're coming from. Because, as far as I am aware, I believe anybody can run for the public board, right? As a trustee. Is there any kind of, aside from maybe like not being a student, anybody could theoretically run and campaign as a trustee in the process when there are trustees to elect, obviously. But it helps to know that, not all trustees are coming from, administrative or educational background. They come from different parts and walks, right? And so you come from being, a former teacher, and that, I would assume probably helps shape maybe some of your perspective on being a trustee. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, and we've had former directors and former superintendents that have taken on that role. The only aspect that we have to be careful about is that you cannot you cannot run for trustee if you are a current employee of the board.
Right.
So you can't be. I couldn't do the trustee position if I was still teaching.
Right. Hence that transition.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. So I guess to kind of maybe take all that information and, the understanding that you have being a teacher and an educator, and understanding how that wraps into maybe your processes as a trustee or former trustee, looking at the educational experience that the concept of the, I'm going to use the term mega school at Parry Sound, which if I'm being really frank, I was surprised that it was a K to 12. I thought, like, when I hear mega school, I think, 7 to 12, because we have a few here in North Bay. The K to 12, it was like, well, it's a small area. It's a big school. It's supposed to serve a lot of people in a small area. But I was like, that's a lot of different age groups and educational, phases of life, all kind of within one building on one campus. I guess what I'm maybe trying to get to is, throughout the process and the development of the mega school, past the amalgamation of the Parry Sound area becoming into Near North, what do you think the process looks like for a mega school like that? Like, do you have any thoughts on like what it should look like, what you could have done differently? Is there anything that you could share regarding what that looks like for a school of that size in an area of that size, like Parry Sound?
Well, I can share the process that we normally go through. Sure. When we're doing any kind of amalgamation or what they used to call right sizing.
Yeah.
So here in North Bay, we've gone through that process, both at a high school level where we went 3 high schools to 2 high schools, and yes, that was there was some controversy there.
Contentious, yeah.
Because everybody has feelings and they obviously have attachments to the schools.
Of course.
And one of the main challenges of being a trustee is to be able to get as much information as you can and make the best decision that you can with what you have. And sometimes that decision may not, we will never be 100% where everybody jumps up and down and goes, hey, yay! But hopefully through communication and through walking the public, especially through the decision-making process, how we got to where we were, and getting and communicating that way, that they may still not agree with our ultimate decision.
Right.
For example, if we took the Chippewa versus Whitfield school, but if we do a good job at the communication and say these are the reasons why, then there's an understanding there about why we did it, and looking to the future, there's this to consider, there's that to consider. Right. That goes a long way, I think, in being able to again have that understanding from the public, and as long as we're doing the right thing for the student. Now, with the Parry Sound build, because of the length of time we're talking about, at least 10 years, if not more, I was not around in the role of trustee when the original ARC was done at the Parry Sound area. Okay. I do know that it was grade 7 to 12, grade 9 to 12, 7 to 12, and then there was all other things. So I cannot speak on that because that was not something that I was privy to or had those conversations. But I will say that oftentimes what happens, because we are not, even though I'm an elected trustee and I ran in the North Bay, West Nipissing area, which is where Zone 1 is. Yep. And we have 4 trustees that we can elect in that zone because of the population of students, et cetera.
Spread, yeah.
Yeah. We have to be mindful that we are not just representing that zone. when we are elected as trustees, we represent the entire board. And I would say that there are numerous times where knowing that we were going to make a decision that was maybe outside of our zone, that many of us went down where we could to hear, to understand, so that whatever decision we were making, we knew a little bit more and had heard some concerns, etc. When we talk about the Parry Sound build in the spring, when the minister came for the tour of the school, some of us went down from this area, and I went down in particular because I wanted to hear the conversation, see the building, see where we were at, because we were also making a decision about one of the schools and whether they were going to close the two elementary schools that were amalgamating into the building. And I think that also is something that if you ask some of the things that I'm most proud of, I think that was one of the moments where we stopped the process of selling that particular school, that we said we want to pause, that until we know that the building is safe, until we know that the students are in a safe environment, that everybody fits in all of the things that were concerns at the time, we'll just have them stay in McDougall and we'll have them stay at Nobel.
Right.
Because of that decision, that caused some comments from the minister, and some others. But looking back on it, I think the trustees that voted for it, I think that it was a perfect example of when we vote, putting students first. They're the right votes. They're not the popular votes, but they're the right votes. And sometimes it's not the school, it's not the population around. It could be whether it's ministry or wherever. There could be some challenges to why that decision making was done in that way.
Right.
But I sit here today and think when we knew finally that things were not going to be ready for September, and that there were more construction delays than we realized, that it was good that we had that that we were putting kids first and saying, let's just be sure. We'll give it at the most a year. We'll review it in Christmas time to see where we're at. But where else could they go? And so right now we have kids that are K-6 that are sitting that are learning and having a wonderful time, and so are staff in the McDougall school. And we have 7 and 8 students that are in the Nobel school, and they're not having to deal with some of the issues that they would have had to deal with, and even more issues would have come up if we had to. Where would we house them?
Yeah, a half-built school.
Yeah. So all of that. So as for any of the other issues that surround that build, they're ongoing, and those are comments that are better asked by the operations side.
Right.
But as far as our decision-making ability, I think that because of the tour, because of what we were hearing, we felt that was the best to do, because it's easier to say, oh, everything's ready. If we need to, we can move them in at the end of September or by Christmas time. But if they're not, what are we going to do? And so I think that was a good decision. Yeah.
I think so too. I think it's, and like, I don't, I'm just a spectator, right? I don't have any dogs in this fight. I don't have any kids. I don't have any direct family in Parry Sound. My partner's from Parry Sound. Her family's in Parry Sound. So I hear about this topic quite a bit. But I think the delay was the right choice. I'm curious as if you could shed any light on the next two questions I'm going to give you. Are you able to talk a bit about, and this might be an operation side of thing, if you kind of already answered it, like why the construction process was delayed? And, getting before that, did you feel like when the ministry visited, like from some capacity or some corner, was there like an urgency or like a gesture to kind of get them into the school earlier from someone or the community? Like, was there some sort of pushback that you had to kind of make a stand on to say, look, we need to keep the kids in classrooms that are currently already built and not a building that is half built? Was there any of that?
I think that, yes, you're correct in the sense that some of the questions as far as the building and where it's at now, that's a question that you need to ask the director and the staff that are involved in the build.
Okay.
Because they're more up to date with things.
Right.
As of December 1st, we were dismissed, and lots of things can happen in a short period of time, and so I'm not privy to
Fair.
what those things are, and it would be unfair of me to make an assumption, especially with that particular topic.
Fair. I had to ask. I had to take my shot, right?
Good.
But I appreciate the candidness of your answer. I appreciate that.
And I think there's also a realization that, because we're not recognized as trustees in the ministry eyes,
Right.
I think the ones that elected us still see us as trustees. Our term doesn't officially finish.
We have about a year, right?
Till October and November. But normally the protocol would be that the chair would be the spokesperson on behalf of the board. And individual trustees can speak on matters, but they would be only giving their personal opinion.
Right.
And they have to preface that with, this is my own personal opinion. Because we don't have that formal structure at the current time, we don't necessarily have to follow under that.
Right.
But keeping in mind that there are also things that were said in closed session or were said and were not made into certain decisions. I wouldn't comment on those because they technically would be something that the chair would do.
Got it. Speaking of the chair, I do know after speaking with my producer that we did reach out to recently elected chair of the trustees, Jay Aspin for Near North. We didn't get a comment from what I understand. But I mean, the invitation's open. Jay, if you want to come on the show, this is your invitation. Come on in, we'll chat. But I do understand like that dynamic is a little different now because you're kind of dispersed, oddly enough. Because like what I mean, we're gonna get to. I want to talk about Paul, Mr. Calandra, in a quick minute here. But like. Now that you've been dismissed, as of, you said December 1st?
December 1st,
right, and that's
8:30 a.m.
8:30, you know the time. So we're filming this, recording this on December 9th, which is a Tuesday, for anyone wondering. So it's been about a week. Like, what's your day-to-day been like? Like, for a lot of trustees, I can't say all of them, but I imagine a lot of trustees are much like yourself, who might be retired or a different phase of their working career life. Have you talked much with them? I mean, I'm sure you can't organize and talk about stuff, obviously, considering what you can do. But I guess, like, what's left for you to do? Are you just kind of like lying in wait? Is there like a timeline on how long you're dismissed for? Like, what's happening?
That would be a question that I don't think any of us can answer.
Damn.
We can only look at watching what the 5 other boards that before us have encountered and seeing that some of the boards were taken over last spring, and they still are under supervision. The likelihood of us coming back before the municipal elections would be does not look good with the history. But the other thing is that the concern going forward is, from my point of view, and one of the things that I was hoping to do was to be able to thank everybody that helped vote for me and allowed me the privilege of being able to be at the board table as their representative for the 3 terms. Moving forward, my hope would be that those people that had that voice and understood the importance of the school board trustees and the role that we play or played, that's important for them to voice their concerns at the provincial level through their MPPs or going to the premier or whatever, to say that it's important that we have the public school board trustees.
Right.
From what I'm seeing, even as today, from what I've picked up today, there seems to be more clarity that it is the public school board that may not be having boards of trustees,
Right.
And that's concerning to me.
Yeah.
The fact that we are elected officials by our communities.
Yep.
And somebody can come in and just say, no, you're gone. To me, that doesn't sound like democracy.
I would say it's undemocratic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at right now. On a personal level, I was on my way to Ottawa.
Okay.
And I happened to be just pulling out of getting a cup of coffee out of a drive-through, and I decided I was going to text and let them know I'm on my way. And a relative was actually saying, "What are you going to do with the time now that it's not spring, summer, or fall?" And I thought, "What are you talking about?" And that's how I found out.
That's how you found out.
That's how I found out, because I was on the road.
Right.
And by the time I got to Ottawa, things had happened and we were no longer able to get into our board email. So while I was in Ottawa, I had no idea what was going on. There was another trustee that had sort of said something, and I had made the comment, well, I'll be back in time for the meetings that we were to have on Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. And there are no meetings and all this kind of thing. So for me, I wasn't here at when it all took place. So I've heard bits and pieces about how it transpired or things that were done.
Yep.
But my story is that I found out through a relative that we were dismissed.
Maybe not the most standard way of hearing, getting delivered, day-to-day changing news with a cup of coffee over the counter. But I mean, if you found out, I guess it's if I hadn't found out then, I would have found out because when I would have gotten to Ottawa, yeah. I would have checked some news, and then I would have seen it because it was all over many outlets. It was distributed very quickly. Yes. But I guess in a weird way, hearing, we say Tim Hortons, I have no idea what coffee you were getting. You don't have to bro any of them. But as you were getting coffee, I guess you kind of had the time to think about it. I don't know if that's healthy or if that was helpful. I don't know. But
the trip down was, it was good because I could try and process some of the things and wondering, well, how's this going to happen, or right. what's going to happen to this, or right. How are the voices going to be heard? And I think that's sort of some of the things that I have questions and concerns about.
Sure.
We are not only do we come to the board table for committee of the whole meetings and for our monthly board meeting where we do the actual business of the board, where we make decisions and that type of thing. But we are on, there's lots of committees, and there are important committees. We have legislative committees, we have standing committees, we have ad hoc committees. But we also have, a lot of the committees have trustees on them, staff on them, senior admin on them, community partners on them, community members. And we have meeting. I've been involved in First Nations Advisory Committee, Special Education Advisory Committee, some of the other committees where there is public input, our Equity Advisory Circle, all of these things. And from my understanding of other boards, all of that was shut down. And so it's not just the trustees that are involved. There are many other things. So when people talk about the school board, as an educator, when I was teaching, the school board meant to me the superintendents and the director. We didn't think in terms of the board of trustees. We were aware of their role.
Sure.
But the day-to-day operations and everything, that was sort of
the admin, right?
The silo, if you want to say it.
Yeah.
And when I hear things in the paper or on different people speaking or whatever, the board gets mixed up with who's what and where.
Yep.
So if I could maybe just clarify what the school board looks like is when you see a picture of the board and it looks like there's all these oodles of people and what's going on, it breaks down to simply this. There is a board of trustees, and the board of trustees is made up of 9 elected trustees. 8 of them are municipally, through municipal elections, are voted in.
Right.
The Indigenous trustee is voted in and elected by the 8 chiefs that are in our particular geographical area that make up our board. And so that representative isn't that's a representative, a trustee that comes from those communities.
Right.
And then we also have 2 student trustees.
Right.
One is elected from the student senate, and the other is the student Indigenous trustee. And they are elected through their, if you want to say student senate, which is the Indigenous Youth Circle.
Sure.
So the only ones that are dismissed right now are the elected 9 trustees with the 2 student trustees. The rest of the board comprises of the director, the superintendents, the senior admin team. You will also see union reps sitting at the table.
Yeah.
You will see media sitting at the table.
Of course.
But the 9 trustees, not including the student trustees, are the only voting members of the board. So that's where this the board of trustees will vote on this, or the board of trustees has to make that decision.
Right.
But when we talk about a school board, you have to have the director on. He's on as the secretary of the board, and so when we have a board meeting, for example, or a committee of the whole meeting, the director or the director designate must be at the meeting to make it official. So there's lots of things in the Education Act about that. So it's been an interesting at times when the school board has made a decision, or this is because of somebody or whatever. The decision making comes from the board of trustees, and that's where that accountability from the ministry, why they can do that. But the unfortunate part is that that wipes out the voices of the people that went and elected us in the first place.
Right.
So going forward, that's a concern of mine: is who How now do they do that process?
Because from what I can tell, the trustees have been replaced by an appointed supervisor from the Ministry of Education. I don't know the person's name. I don't know where they're located. And I guess maybe we could find this out. But that kind of therein lies the problem, right? And that maybe I'm inserting myself here, is that it feels a little odd, I'm being very careful, that we have, for the board, an appointed member from the Ministry of Education to represent the interests that would represent and replace the people who are trustees, who are voted by the members of the public, when this person might not live here, might not work here, may have never lived here and worked here, and by all accounts was not elected in the same capacity the trustees were 3 years ago. And so for me, that feels weird because, we talked about, Parry Sound not having, maybe the right voice representation during their construction phase, or just in general in the democratic process. I said it before, I'll say it again. It doesn't feel super democratic when we have a person that we don't know, we don't call to, we don't know them in the community or whatever community they might be associated with here, essentially doing the services of what you and your colleagues used to do, which feels odd, right?
I do have concerns about this because, nine people, and the majority of those people, when the decision comes, that's the decision that we have. So you're not going. Sometimes we have unanimous agreement with a certain thing. Usually, if it's something to do with students or something that's. We will get that full 100%, all 9 voting on something. When we have lots of different issues, it takes some discussion and it takes some understanding, and then we get the majority that will. But to say that one person is going to take over the 9 voting, that's a concern, because the value of the process that we have right now is we have, as you mentioned really early, a variety of people, and I've seen over the years on my time on the board, we've had people. I can think of one trustee who was very high up in Canadian Tire. Vice president of a certain area or whatever, and very good at the financial, and that was part of the position that they were in, and that knowledge when it came to looking at budgets and that whole process.
Solid skill set.
That was, and used to the big money that we have to be accountable for. So a lot of times, those different voices and those different experiences and the different backgrounds can make it a very rich discussion area. And usually, by the time we come to a decision, if we've had a really good discussion about it and had a lot of thought on it and a lot of feedback and information and all the rest of it, we can come up with a really good a solution going forward. It may not look like what we originally intended or whatever, but through talking and through consultation with the public, we come up with what's going to work best.
Right.
And so I have concerns about one person doing that. I don't know how one person is going to be able to do some of the committee work that we used to do. I don't know how that's going to work. We don't know. Some of the boards do not have board meetings and committee of the wholes that have been taken over, and so where do the public go? How do they find out things? Because they would listen, they would join in either Zooming or come in person to a board meeting or committee of the whole, and they could at least hear the conversations and hear the thought process out loud that we would do around the table. My concern is that it's not only taken the voice away from the 9 voting trustees, But we've taken away the Indigenous voice, both in a student trustee and in a Indigenous trustee.
Well said.
And the student voices are not being said, not being heard in a way. They were right at the table,
Right.
and they were able to do that. So
Yeah, I sometimes I talk a bit about my previous job as comms officer for a different school board locally, and one of my favorite parts of a lot of those meetings, which were public, was hearing the students' reports and seeing in case like you're busy and you can't make a certain committee or you can't make an event at a school. You always got to hear what the schools were doing and what the high school may have been doing or what a couple high schools were doing. And you're right, you lose a lot of that, community touch point. You make it, an on or off switch for one person. It's not a dialogue. You lose different skill sets and backgrounds and, comprehension and differences. You lose a lot of that from this, right? And, I'm curious as if there was anything communicated in the last 9 days. You said you locked out your email with the ministry. Have you been told to do anything, to wait? Have you just been kind of told to, be free? Like, has there been any kind of communication from, I guess it probably would come through, I'd imagine, the senior administration. But would anything be communicated to you from the ministry in terms of what you could or should be doing, if anything?
The only communication that I have is from actually going and looking at the media releases. And so have we? No, because it's been an interesting process because as of while I was in Ottawa, the first night there were things taken off of the website.
Yeah.
And I think by the time I returned and maybe looked on Wednesday, there was no trail. There was no profiles left of the trustees on the website.
I noticed that too.
All of the names of the trustees that were on committees were all taken off, and it was quite an experience. But there are some the people that are at the grassroots, the teachers and the administrators of the school, the executive assistants at the board office, the senior admin, they do a great job. There will continue to be, as best as they can, doing the work that probably within the classroom, the kids won't notice the difference for a while anyways. It might make a difference because they won't have that voice that's saying to the ministry, we need more money, we need more funding, that type of thing. But a lot of that, the funding requests and a lot of those kinds of things were being done by the senior admin team. I hope that a lot of the committees that may or may not be functioning right now, in particular like the Special Education Advisory Committee, the First Nations Advisory Committee, some of the Parent Involvement Committee, a lot of those types of committees, that they will be able to somehow function, although in some ways there is in the Education Act that you have to have so many trustees and that type of thing. But that will be only a matter of time before the Education Act is changed. There's already been some changes today.
I was just going to say. Yeah.
I just before the interview, I had gone on one site and had seen where that there is things like if we had a school and we were going to rename the Chippewa renaming scenario, that comes to the Board of Trustees to make the final decision. I read today where it's already in where that the minister any new
I did
school,
see this.
Yes, any new school,
yes,
or any existing school where the name is going to change, it is now to go to the approval of the minister.
Right.
So some of the things that we did are being taken over.
Yeah.
And at least there's the check and balance at the minister's level. And I think that's the really important thing, that that the role of the trustees be that role be taken over somehow, so that there's that accountability, there's that communication pathway that the public, and that it's very clear. Right now, because it's happened so quickly, and there's still some processes going on, even with the boards that have been taken over for a longer period of time. It'll be interesting to see. But where do we go from here? I only hope that we have the opportunity to keep our democratic rights, and I see where there's already been lots of comments made about the public school board, but the Catholic and the French boards are remaining intact, and I even heard today where the Ottawa Carleton board, the trustees are still there, even though they've been taken over, but they in the Catholic board, but they are only dealing with certain things, like the denominational aspects or things like that.
Okay.
So in my mind, we are supposed to be role models, and I always look at, when we get into big situations, what could we have done differently, or where's the common sense or the logic?
Sure.
So if we're taking, you made the comment about the group, the one supervisor.
Yeah.
There's lots of talk by the public of the salaries that we make, and I'm here to let you know
Go ahead.
that for me, I looked it up last night, and it was a monthly salary, and I'm just going to see if I've got it here in my notes, but it's something like $570.31 a month.
Yeah.
I think if you put the chair and the vice chair receive a little bit more, student trustees get about $2,500 a year each. So we're looking at about $80,000 for 11 elected people.
Right.
A $350,000 person is going to come in.
Yep.
But that person's going to need, if we have that supervisory office, they're going to need a building. They're going to need some staff.
Admin help, yeah.
There's got to be a custodian. There's got to be a secretary. There's got to be those working things.
That's a good point.
So my thing is, what if the 6 boards were reinstated?
Okay.
Right now, let's just
sure. Let's do it.
Yeah. What about having the 6 boards reinstated, taking that $350,000, giving some of that money back to spec ed and some of the other areas that really need it.
Yeah.
But having the idea of a supervisory officer isn't a bad idea. So with the 5 boards that are now under ministry takeover because of financial concerns, have that person be the person that can go in and work alongside the board of trustees, so that problem or whatever it was can be rectified, can be sorted out, that their governance and their bylaws and their policies reflect going forward how they can make sure that never happens again,
right,
and that they're up to date and stuff. With our board, it wasn't finances, it was the governance.
Right.
So reinstate us, have us do the committee work and all the rest of the stuff, and then have somebody come in and go through, and I'm on the was on the governance committee, work with us, and as we're going through that, and do all of that, take some of that money and put it so that we're again role modeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Show people how you can do a learning experience.
I like this.
A teaching moment. For me, it's a teaching moment. Get somebody in who can talk to all of the Board of Trustees and get our governance to. This is not this is not a discussion. This is what needs to be in place, and then let's go forward following and making sure we're doing it. Have that person come to our board meetings and our committee meetings.
Yeah.
Making sure that, when things come up, what's it say in our bylaws? What does it say in our governance? And that way, it's a win-win situation because where we're not maybe being the most accountable or we are not doing the best job at communication, which are the two big words that gets us into problems all the time when it's not done right. Mm-hmm. That person can be the person that comes in and they don't have to be here all the time. Mm-hmm. They can do a lot of work where they are, but use that money. And then the other, because it's not just 6 boards that will be in that situation. As of September, all the school boards are going to have that supervisory component to them. Right. Well, wouldn't that money be better served to the needs in special ed? Because I think we're close to 400,000 that we're usually needing to fund from other areas of our budget to make things work for spec ed. And so there's the money.
Yeah.
There is underfunding, and so
there's underfunding.
So when I see this being set up, that's my concern. Like right. It's, this is a great way. There's a way out of this.
Yeah.
And there's a way of being able to say, the Board of Trustees work. The minister knows that because he's not touching certain, not all boards.
Catholics,
not all,
the French board, the French Catholics.
Right. Yeah, and I've been watching and listening for that, and I'm not hearing anything that's saying, we're going to just get rid of all the boards of trustees. Why pick on one particular area?
The largest, too.
The largest. And so my mind starts to go, is there something that's for example, in our area, we not blocked, but we voted to have that pause on the school.
Right.
We voted, and the minister commented on this. I believe I just heard this today. That when he was talking in the Ottawa bill, he talked about Parry Sound and Sturgeon Falls and the French board and that type of thing. And we had passed a motion in the spring because we had a letter of interest, and it's on the website. I checked to make sure it's not something that's still in closed session. There is a copy of the letter.
Okay.
You can look under our last committee of the whole.
Sure.
And it's right in the agenda section, right at the bottom, where we had a motion that we had just said, thank you for your collaboration, your interest, but this particular land acquisition, we're not interested in. And so there's things like that as I'm hearing him saying more and more, by having the public school trustees not there anymore, is there other initiatives or other things that they want to do that they would have an easier time? So when I hear the comments of let's just get, I can just get rid of them, that's concerning to me, because that's not language that you would want to hear a principal say. That's not language you would want to hear a teacher say. And going back to that role model part, you want to role model how you can make the most common sense, most logical, most respectful decision that you can make. So those are just thoughts that
they're
that
good.
come into my mind.
Thank you, Louise. Those are good thoughts because I think I would say, and again, I'm inserting myself on the show. I think some of the criticisms to whether it was the trustees or the administration, it was tough because it's not simple. Some of them were probably fair, right? Some of them were probably maybe more complicated. I think the complete removal of the trustee system, and in this case, your colleagues, felt like a bit of an overreach, for sure. I think that's what I would probably say. But I think there should have been something like a half measure like this, like you suggested, like a kind of like a, I don't even know, like I almost called them a watchdog, but like something like that to kind of help facilitate that communication. Because I was doing the math and you were tallying up, I'm like, this person's going to cost, as much, if not more, than any kind of current framework that you'd have, plus things to help make it work more efficiently. Because I always tell Ben, like, I like to, take aim at comment sections because they just fill with a lot of really unique opinions that may not always have a lot of, fact behind. People think, trustees are making like crazy bank being a trustee, and it's not the case. Like, I mean, it's not like you're doing it for the lucrative side of it. You're doing it because you believe in it. You have some sort of connection to the schools or the students, or the profession, or the community. You're doing it as an elected official because you want to help, right? It's not appearing itself as some sort of glamorous, opportunity. And there's maybe some interesting parts to it, but it's not what people I think are making it out to be. And which is why when we had Tabachnik in, Dr. David Tabachnik in, it was nice to hear him kind of talk about how like we should be, in his opinion, putting more money into education, not starving it, not starving the sector, to kind of help encourage people to take part in the trustee electoral process or help fund these unique programs that include, Indigenous education or STEM or the trades, all those communities we talked about. That I think was where you can see growth. And I just don't think that our current provincial government is willing to do that. I think they want to do a lot of Band-Aid fixes. They think they want to take things away, make it look like they're doing busy work, but yet kind of consolidating it. And I think this is just another example of that, which is really unfortunate. But I will pivot this into saying, Paul, if you want to come on the show, Minister of Education, you're welcome. He made an appearance, and I'm kind of keen. We'll get you going in a minute here, Louise. He made an appearance on, I think it was like, I want to say Brian Mulroney's
Ben
Mulroney.
Yes.
Brian Mulroney was the former prime minister. Ben Mulroney's podcast radio piece. I'm not quite sure what this is yet. Where he said a lot of pointed things at the board, and I can imagine that was maybe it felt like for me that was the writing on the wall. Was like the report that he gave you in your colleagues on behalf of Rachel Osborne, who is the person who constructed the report. Yeah. It kind of felt like a lose-lose. Like it almost felt like it was, whether some of them were doable or not doable within like the 15 days they gave you, it felt like the game was already over. It felt like it was maybe too hard of a high of a hill to climb, considering all the things you had to do. Would you think that would be fair? Because they kind of went into you on that podcast. Not you specifically, Louise, but...
what was interesting for me was I took it as a challenge.
Okay, interesting.
When he was saying about... basically, I've given them 15 directives.
15 directives, yes. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, they're not recommendations, they're directives, yes. Binding directives. And I don't think they'll really be able to do it. And all three reports were put to the government, or they were sent back in time, filled in with... the directives. Not all the directives had to be done. There were 3 stages, right. So they had to be immediately done, and then there was like 5 days and 10 days, and some of the directives were where they didn't have to be completed until the end of April or May. So some of the governance things, as long as it was done at a certain time. He made the comment about the director's office. That was done almost immediately. Yeah. It was in our first report, actually, that went in 5 days. And that was something that came up a week or two ago, and I went, that was in our first report. That was already done. Like what are you talking about? So there was a recognition at that point. Have you even read our report? Because there was a lot of work that went into that. A lot of senior staff, a lot of people stopped what they should have been doing to compile those reports and that type of thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
There was some of the directives were ones that we should have been following, and some of the directives for us that were on the governance committee, we went, well, it's a directive now, so it's not going to be a discussion item or whatever. We can
Right.
put that in because
Right.
that's going to happen. So my understanding is that we, like the whole professional development. The former chair had gotten a hold of OPSPA, which is the Ontario School Board, Public School Board Association, and they worked hand in hand with getting things ready. And we had some that were starting and would finish by the end of January, which was the time frame that we had. Mm-hmm. And all of those 7 or 8 things that he listed that we had to do, like director performance appraisal, trustee code of conduct, all of that, those are already set up, and that time frame had gone to him. The governance committee had put in a time frame as well about how all of this was going to happen, and within the first report, we were going back to every a 2-week difference between committee of the whole and the board meetings and that type of thing. So there was a lot of work that was done, and we were on the impression that we were going along. There were still some little kinks. There were some things that were out of our control a little bit that delayed some of them from being done. For example, we couldn't get the director and that public meeting for Parry Sound within the time limit due to... It
was like a day before or something, right?
There were some other circumstances that were going on. And so, but for the most part, we felt like we're coming along here. Okay. And so that was why some of it was a shock on the Monday morning for us, or whenever the rest of them found out. But I think if common sense and logic were to come along, and we had that extra help and support directly in where we exactly needed it, and that person also wanted to take on the responsibility of Rachel Osborne's report, that those things that were mentioned in the report that needed to be done, investigations or whatever, that they be done, and they be done through that channel. I could see where we would be even stronger, and we would be in a better position to serve the students and the public. And again, going back to that. The accountability would be better, the communication would be better. There would still be lots of issues that would come up, but the way of handling them, there'd be a clearer understanding with the Board of Trustees, et cetera. It was a perfect storm in a way, because for the last 2 terms, we had 7 new trustees.
You had a lot of turnover, yeah.
Yeah, and that was just in the voting. And then every term that I've been on, and even prior to the term that I was on, we've always had somebody leave the board, either because of health or because of moving away or for whatever reason.
Sure.
And so we've always never started and finished with the same group.
Right.
In certainly the 3 terms I was on, and I know the term before that. So when you have that large grouping, it takes a while for a lot of the governances and the bylaws and those types of things to be understood. And I'm still learning. was still learning. And
I think you're still learning. It's always
fun. Yeah. And, thinking in my mind, you know what, I'd like to do this better. I think we can do this better. And all of that type of thing. And that's good. That's positive.
Yeah, I think we'll get out of here soon because I know we've gone a little long, but it was great hearing the thoughts from you, Louise. I think it's really important and really insightful for when there is maybe what feels like a lack of voice representation in this space right now for you to have that chance. And you're always welcome on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome to come back. But we'll throw it off to this at this point. We invited Paul, using first names, which feels very informal. We've invited, Jay. We'll also invite, if he wants to come on, Craig, who is the director. If he wants to come on to the show, we'd happily talk with him because I know there's certain things that only, I guess, the director or administration can answer directly. But we'd love to keep talking about this if we can because I don't feel like this is going away anytime soon. It's going to be an interesting 10 months leading up to what might be an election. I don't know. I know you shared your doubts. I think I would probably echo the same. But for those listening, for our community, for the surrounding community, for the members of the ministry who are listening, for your colleagues, is there anything you kind of want to share with us before we get going?
Other than to say thank you very much for the opportunity. And I really would like, I'd be encouraged if there was a strong voice from the public that support public school trustees. And making their voices heard so that myself or anybody else that would like to have that opportunity can have that opportunity to be at that board in November. And in the meantime, it would be great to think that we'll be reinstated. That part, I don't think that's going to happen because that's just common sense.
Yeah.
But I do hope that people realize that the monies could be better spent. One of the things that we look at is monies and where they're being spent. I would much rather. I'm encouraged that there's that much money out there that the government has that they're willing to spend on education. But instead of spending it on one person, have it channeled back to where the students are and where the programs that are in need are. Because that would be a really nice amount of money to have going back into each and every board. And it would be well used.
Fair
so
enough.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come on. And it's been great.
Well, thank you for coming, Louise. Again, always welcome. And we'll chat with you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening or watching the Echo Essentials podcast. My name, as always, is Chris Pekarsky. Let us know what you think about the episode. Share your thoughts, your comments. Give us a like. Feel free to share the episode as well. If you get a chance, check out our newsletter at northbayecho.ca. Subscribe where you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.